Dual Kevin has in recent months established himself as one of the strongest and most consistent Street Fighter 6 players on the planet. After touring the world in an attempt to qualify for the Esports World Cup, he succeeded at the very end at the Last Chance Qualifier, defeating world-class competitors in a historic but undocumented losers bracket run.
Beating Daigo, beating Lamosi, beating everybody.
While he made his mark with a strong 13th place finish and eliminating the EVO Japan champion and favorite to win MenaRD, Dual Kevin would continue his momentum by securing 3 consecutive top 3 finishes in the following CPT premieres. But before his ascension to this level of world-class play in Street Fighter, Dual Kevin was a college student working at McDonald's in Indiana, with dreams of being the best Marvel vs. Capcom 3 player on the planet. With a main stage EVO top 8 finish under his belt, he switched his focus to competing in Street Fighter, eventually quitting both school and his job to go all in on becoming the best Street Fighter player in the world. On this episode of Trash Talk, I sit down with Dual Kevin and discuss this journey.
I eventually just dropped Marvel Infinite, and that's when I felt like I started popping off again.
The training techniques he leveraged to ascend to the next level.
I flipped over immediately, but in my mind I was like, damn, man, I was like, my bad.
And the harsh reality of how the Capcom Pro Tour in 2024 does not reward consistency.
The format is still bad.
Please enjoy. That's interesting. You said you wanted to start another YouTube channel. You feel like you need to reboot the whole thing to get the ball rolling?
So I was talking to my old Furia manager, actually, and he recommended that to me. And I trust him when it comes to the social media realm and everything, and all kinds of socials advice. And he thinks like the channel is kind of dead regarding like how many subs I have versus the quality of my newest videos are better. But then I still have like some old Marvel videos, which like I could delist, but like at the same time, it could also help the algorithm for me to have a whole new channel. So he just think it works best for me then. And I'll take up on his advice. So I was like, I'll try that when the time comes. Yeah.
I'm not sure the science of that. I know on some platforms it definitely is like that. Like I think TikTok will pigeonhole you after like a couple of videos. That does happen where they kind of like attempt to send your videos out, and if it doesn't work, they give up. But I don't know if YouTube's necessarily like that. I'm not sure if you have to completely start over. You probably do need to have a banger though of a video to get the ball rolling.
Whatever it is, I mean, I don't know. I'll just take up his advice. He's really good when it comes to that stuff. So, and I don't think it could hurt too much, to be real. So, like, I've been slacking on the YouTube content for a while anyway. So
is that something you want to build up though? Like, what is your ambition with doing YouTube? Because I mean, you're a pretty dedicated, like, professional player. I feel like at this point, like, you're on the verge of qualifying for Capcom Cup again. I believe it will happen. Not to jinx it or anything, but you're on the verge of getting in there again. You've been having a lot of tournament success. So is the content side of things something you're interested in pursuing for what purpose?
To tell you the truth, Brian, it feels more of an obligation than anything. Like I'm on the one of those players that just want to compete. I just know the harsh reality is you can't just compete, at least in the Street Fighter world, at least the Street Fighter realm of things. Is like you have to make content as well. And I'm not that type of person to speak to in front of the camera. Like, not that I'm afraid. I just am not that type. Like the social media. I'm not even that type of social media. You probably see me. I don't tweet that much. Like, I don't. I just like created like a salty tweet for the first time in who knows how many years after Blink. But even then, I don't be tweeting that much. Really, I'm not that type of person. I'm not the type of person to go to a restaurant and make it a habit to pull my phone out and take a picture of my food. You know. Now I kind of am lately for the social media realm. It's doing that is content for people who ever follow me, you know, and that's I understand that. Yeah. So like I have to be on top of that when it comes to Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that, Twitch. Streaming, I can do that. But even sometimes streaming, I was like, bro, I just want to play. I don't even feel like talking. So sometimes I just don't even talk to my stream sometimes for a certain amount of time. But I'm like that. It's more of an obligation than anything. And I know I have to do it. And I know the formula to do it well. It's just, do I really want to do it? That's why you see the lack of YouTube videos. Are like, there's not many of them there on my channel right now. But I do know I'll get to it when I get to it, basically.
Yeah, it was interesting to see you actually tweet their Blink respawn. I mean, we'll probably go more into that in a bit. Because I mean, you're venting about how consistent you've been, but it hasn't really resulted in helping you qualify for Capcom Cup. But it's funny that you mentioned how you feel obligated to do it. I'm wondering, like, what do you see at the end of that tunnel? Because I do believe we live in an ecosystem where to be a professional player, that means that you're going above and beyond to build your brand and to generate other revenues of income, because there's no stability in income from tournaments. Like you're never going to make your income solely from tournaments unless you're like the 0.00001%. And I feel like you're like right next to that or nearly in that realm, and you beat those players who are in that realm, right? Like I think the players who can make a living from only tournaments are like Punk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you're one of the few players on the planet who are able to take wins off of players like Punk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that difference is like 6-figure difference of income. Because you've been in top 3 of like 3 CPT premieres now, and you've been all over the world having a lot of success, but that doesn't really generate revenue unless you're winning. Like you went to Esports World Cup, and you made good money from there, but unless you win, that's you're not making a yearly salary from those showings. So do you feel like you were trying to branch into content more just for the actual potential revenue from that, or for more brand building purposes to like attract sponsorships?
I'd say both, but it's definitely like a safety net at the end of the day, right? Kind of how you're saying, like it looks good for you on your resume when it comes to reaching out to these teams or them reaching out to you. It's like I could provide some content, some social media content, some YouTube, Twitch content. Like you can rely on me to still do the work I'm doing outside of tournaments. Like if there's not a tournament this weekend, I'm still gonna be doing stuff. I'm still gonna be doing shit, like okay. Can I curse, by the way? Can I curse, by the way? I'm pretty sure
you can say whatever you want, man. Okay. We ain't on any Capcom socials, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Do whatever you want.
I'm still got shit to do this weekend, bro. And whether it's not World Warriors, CPT, I'm still gonna be putting in some kind of work, and you're gonna see the numbers. They'll be there within my YouTube video or my Twitch. So I'm still pulling some kind of numbers for you. And like if we're working together, like I'll provide as long as you provide for me. You know how teams go. Right. So I think it's just a good look overall.
Okay, yeah. So your focus is for building your brand and resume so that you can attract a sponsor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's what you have to do. I mean, I've been preaching that for forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
in my perfect world, that never has to get to that. Like I could just play if I wanted to, and content, social media could happen, and for the people who want to do that. I think maybe some games are like that. I haven't focused on too many games lately. But I know even like Warzone streams, like some of them don't interact with their Twitch chat at all. They're just playing their game, but they still have thousands of views. Like, I mean, I probably would still talk to my stream, right? I'm not like that antisocial, but like it's like I don't want to put so much focus on the content side of things so much as me competing. I would love to compete, and that was it. But if that's the harsh reality it is, then harsh reality, if you want to call it, that's reality it is, right?
Yeah, the harsh reality is you're going to have to put on your YouTuber voice and say, "What's up, guys? Dual Kevin here. Welcome back to another video."
Because I do have to put a personality out there too, right? Like when I'm doing a YouTube video versus like Twitch streaming and everything, it's a different kind of personality out there. And I just, I'll do it. I just prefer not to.
Well, at least you admit you'll do it. Yeah. And that's something I've talked about too, is how in an ideal world, I would love if people who were not interested in doing social media and content could just compete and live off their greatness and focus on competition. Like that would be ideal. But we are so far from that. And I think when you look at other games like, Call of Duty, League of Legends, they're just bigger, right? They're so big that people just want to actually see people who are good play the game. We have that in the FGC, but it's just not the same audience. And like these games do sell pretty well, but they're mostly ultra casual people who pick up the game. Like the vast majority of consumers. So the number of people who are actually spectating the tournament scene and following along, it's so minuscule that to capture their attention, it's way too hard. So I feel like we're still in that phase. I don't know if we'll ever get out of it, to be quite honest, but we're in that phase where we have to do more to bring more people in. And hopefully eventually, players like you and other players who are just godlike could just sit there and play. And then they get thousands of viewers on stream just from being silently grinding, practicing. And then people will donate money and they can make a living that way and then just go to tournaments. But we're so far away from that right now. So it's good that you're focusing, or at least accepting that you have to do something else to build your brand in the meantime.
Yeah, 356 definitely helped out a lot with that. And it's I have a little bit of a hot take, you could say, regarding that. It's like I do think the online era helped out a lot with that too, because it's like, say we need those kind of people that just donate, sub, whatever, because they see us like we're regular people, bro. Like you can see us easily at an event, but some people see us as like superstars, but especially like But if you see me at like every single offline event, you know, it's like, bro, I'm not gonna sub to this guy. I just seen him last week, you know, like a CEO or whatever. But if it was online era, how you rarely see me, I think that's how it works sometimes. It's like, yeah, if you see me at the online and you never see me in person, yeah, you are gonna treat me more like a superstar than you would if you saw me every other weekend.
True.
Yeah, so I feel like that kind of helped out in a way. Obviously, I'm not saying we'll keep the online era because we could get to it when it comes to Blink and how everything turned out with the CPT format. But I think that is something that actually like came alongside with it.
Well, couldn't you just argue that Street Fighter 6 is just more popular now and you're more popular? Like, I would want to push back against that because not every casual, or I guess they wouldn't even be a casual fan. If they're watching CPT events and following the players, you're already in a very special category, right? But if you're a not heavily competing, but super fan of the scene, which is a very small number of people, but they do exist, then you're still going to be seeing Dual Kevin on the stage in person, and they're not necessarily going to be at every event, right? Like the era, I think you're like harkening back to like the Street Fighter 5 era, where like, I would see you, we would see everybody like every other fucking weekend. Like we're on a plane every other weekend all over the country and sometimes going a little bit more internationally. And you would see the same set of like 50 to 100 people every event who are on this stupid, insane grind to try to qualify for Capcom Cup. But those are the people who are subbing and supporting your journey. They're trying to beat your ass. So, those are your fellow competitors. Like,
I guess you're right.
It's another day in the office for them.
I have seen it from a Street Fighter 5 perspective too, I guess, because like the same people like you see in your stream chat are like the same people you see in bracket too, is what I'm thinking. Like, you're familiarizing. Yeah, that's what I think. Is like, oh yeah, it's just my fellow competitor is in my stream chat, and that's like one of the hundreds of views I have in my Twitch stream. So that's why I thought it that way. But yeah, you might be right. Like just the success of Street Fighter 6 overall is just a big helping hand of it.
I think the silent majority would be the people who aren't chatting and who are just kind of lurking. Yeah, those are the people who wouldn't see you. And I mean, the other thing is too, is like this, how this should all scale too. I always think about it is, I hope we find ways to not have to monetize the viewer itself, right? Because
honestly, yes.
Because it doesn't, you're basically, I always compare streaming to like sitting on the corner busking, like you're getting your guitar out and you're playing, you have your case open and hoping people walk by and throw $1 in there. Like that's what streaming is. Like you're playing your game, you're playing your online tournament run, you're live, you're like, hey, if you like what I'm doing, like throw $1 my way maybe so I can afford rent this month. It's kind of a little similar to that. And well, that's great that people are generous and want to support. I do feel like we have to find ways to like not just siphon money from the viewers. That's why I'm more of a fan of like YouTube and ads. I know people hate ads, but if you have a successful YouTube channel, you can make money by providing value to people, either entertainment, informational, whatever. And then you make money by them just watching. You're not taking money out of their pockets to try to support yourself, which I feel like it's a much more ethical transaction in a way. And I think that's healthier for the scene overall. Google is paying the bill there. You know what I mean?
I appreciate my audience, yo. I'm not just trying to see y'all as a dollar sign type of thing. That's what I'm basically trying to get, and that's what I'm thinking too. I don't want to see y'all as just a dollar sign. That's it.
But I got to give you a hard time here. You said I was this whole time. You mentioned your YouTube channel. I was trying to find your YouTube channel. It literally would not serve me your YouTube channel. I was typing in Dual Kevin. You have at Dual_Kevin on YouTube. I put Dual_Kevin in the search engine and never gave me your YouTube channel. But you're saying you got to make a new channel, bro. You have 10 videos. Mm-hmm. That's your problem.
Yeah.
Your problem isn't my channel's data. You have 10 videos, dude. What are you talking about?
Well, I think like 4 of them are from like Marvel from like years ago. I think
so.
Like
you have 5. 6 videos.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's nowhere near enough.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's that too. Like, there's a lot of things I could be doing better.
Yeah, bro. I gotta. If you want to talk YouTube, listen. I mean, I had to post like 100 videos before things started even turning up, and it wasn't until like I think 250 videos that I started actually making any money. So I mean, it's like entering 6 tournaments and being like, oh, I'm not in Capcom Cup.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you got to enter a lot before you start seeing results.
Because I talked about it like this with your editor actually. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, you guys go way back.
Yeah. He lives in Indiana. We played. I played Marvel at his house back in 2013. I remember I would go to I would go to college, and he was in the same city. It was like a 10-minute walk from my college to his apartment. So I would go to college, then I would walk to his house or his apartment to play some Marvel, practice some Marvel for like hours and hours. Yeah, we go way back. And
shout out
I
to
talk.
Double A.
Yeah. Every time I meet up with him, we just say like, "What's up? What's new?" And it's always like a few months, like sometimes half a year since I've seen him. We always talk about this too, like the YouTube realm and how he thinks I could benefit so much from it. And he gives me a lot of advice regarding it every time because you know how it is with him being your editor and everything. He's on point with so much shit, bro.
Yeah, we're always brainstorming and throwing ideas. Like every video you see, there's like a chat of us just like going back and forth on potential titles, ideas, like how to edit this, how to tweak what word to put in the thumbnail. Like there's a whole game to it
so
that
much
we're constantly working on.
So much of it matters that you don't think it would matter. It's like any other thing, but when it comes to like skills and like anything, like you really have to pay attention to the small things you think you wouldn't have to, and it comes down to like fighting as well. Like when it comes to like skill, like I always say this, getting better at like whatever skill. I'll take fighting games for example. Is like you learning how you learn best is how you get better. I think like that's the number one skill you have to understand. Because like I compare it to school. Not everybody did flashcards in school. I didn't, but when I did well in school, I did it without using flashcards. Some people don't be using training mode, but I do. I use training mode, and I feel like I do really well with it. But someone like Punk or Aaron go way back like Marvel 3 era, Ray don't use training mode, but they're amazing at their craft. They're amazing players even without that. But they find out how they're best at learning at whatever skill they're trying to gain from when playing these games. And they're successful without it.
Right.
You know, so it's up to you to understand like how you learn best from it is what I believe.
That's so hard for me to understand how you get good without training mode. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it does exist. I would say like, Punk, Ray. I didn't know that about Ray. That's really interesting considering like he's like the cleanest Marvel player. Like I love watching Ray. Ray Sentinel is like, I try to watch all the highlights of all the Sentinel comebacks. His Magneto is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it's like, because most people be asking me like, yo, how did you get better at doing this, and that? And I'm willing to share it, but you gotta learn how it's best for you at the end of the day. Right. That's what I think. So I'll share my drills. I do drills. I do a lot of drills actually. I'll experiment. Like lately, actually, I've been doing a lot of CFM replays and studying like crazy because Mena helped me with that last Capcom Cup, and I finally started incorporating myself these last few months or half a year, I should say at this point. And I feel like that's what I owed a lot to my success, actually, to my past results.
Well, how do you, what can you break down a little bit? How do you actually analyze a replay? Like what type of replay would you be looking for that you think would be valuable? And then what are you actually doing when breaking it down? Yeah,
so like I actually, like during Street Fighter League, all the Street Fighter League players, I made sure to get sets with them just to download them. Like whether it be like 360H, Shine, Kaba, all the players you saw at Street Fighter League, I try to get a few sets in with them beforehand.
Okay.
Save the replays. And I remember it was actually before Street Fighter League happened, you know, because it's pre-recorded, we all know that. But before Street Fighter League happened, I remember the Terry update happened. And in case you all don't know, like whenever the new update happens, all the old replays just are banished. They're gone. So I remember some of them I actually had to save on my OBS so I could study them right before Super League happened. So I was really dedicated to that. And how I did it is like I would pay attention to the times I got hit. Like me guessing on wake up, like that's kind of whatever. Like of course you have to pay attention to some defensive or offensive habits. For the most part, it's like sometimes I just guess wrong, and we're just human. Like I can't guess right all the time. But other times it's like, how did the sequence happen for me to guess wrong entirely anyways? You know, like when I did stay a meaning kick right here and he blocked it, what did he do afterwards? When I did a fireball, how did he react to me throwing a fireball versus a non-fully charged fireball versus a fully charged fireball to Rashid? And something like that. Like how did the situation all start? You know, what was the first interaction for me to deal with his BS or vice versa? And the times I would get hits on him, I would look at it the same way. Like what started my interaction? What interaction started my offense, basically? Okay. And that's like very Marvel 3 like actually, because as you know, like Marvel 3 is this incoming. As soon as you get the first kill on your opponent, you could just win by that. Right. But like, especially if you fight like an Apology Man, a Vanith Firebrand team, like you actually have no other chance.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no guessing. You just take it all as soon as your first character dies. So the point war matters, the neutral matters. So that's where I've been putting a lot of my focus on when I do study. And I saved a lot of those replays in the past. So because of that, I feel like where I found most of my success from.
Interesting.
Actually.
Yeah, that's really awesome dedication. It's interesting you bring that up because I remember that was kind of a concept that started hardening for myself, and I think a lot of the player base as well during the Street Fighter V era. Because I think Street Fighter 4, unless you were dealing with like a Vortex character and with some unblockable nonsense, you kind of went back to neutral a lot, right? There were so many defensive options in that game, and everyone had reversals and invincible backdashes that I think that concept of like, oh, how do I deal with this situation? Don't be in it, which is an old school Marvel mantra, right? Like that's how you lived and died by that game. In Street Fighter V, I remember like I would get asked this question so many times, like, oh, how do you deal with X, Y, or Z? And I'm like, well, why are you in that situation in the first place? Go back to the previous interaction. Why did you end up there? And so it's interesting to see that you really dialed in on that. And it sounds like you look a lot at like the spacing traps, like the interactions, the minute interactions. Like you do a stand medium kick on block at X, Y, or Z spacing. What is then the next immediate action after this block stun is done, right? Because oftentimes you're both fishing for like a spacing trap. Like you're negative, but you might press crashing medium kick, thinking they might walk back or whiff a button, or stand fierce because they're going to whiff their counter poke, but maybe they did some surprising option. So you really dialed in on those like minute interactions and remember them and figure out counters for that. Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, like I said, I played all the players there, and everyone's gonna react differently. Or like sometimes it's kind of hard to describe. Like people have, I categorize players too in a way. It's funny. That's funny. It sounds like how you interact with like my poking, my stand me kick in neutral, my heavy kick in neutral. Like I know how you'll interact with my other pokes in neutral too. Like if you're a slow kind of player, if you're a very offensive kind of player, I'll just know, right? Based on how, like, if I threw a fireball mid-range, I know how you're going to interact after you block that fireball because I made you block a heavy kick at a certain range, you know? Okay. So, like, I'll categorize you in that way. I actually did that since the Marvel 3 days. Like, how you interact with me throwing grenade as Deadpool, I start to categorize you a certain way. Like, if you block it versus if you jump over it versus if you super jump over it. And I'm not always going to be right, but I eliminate some options out of the equation because I'd seen how you interact with some things before. I was very much good at that in Marvel 3. This game, it's kind of harder, but I'm like starting to understand things better.
Right.
Because, like also like, just perfect parry and driver is just a thing. The mechanics alone just makes it harder, but it's still doable. You're playing a fighting game at the end of the day. So.
No, I mean, it's been showing your results. You've been crazy consistent to that training. Like I'm asking personally here because I need something. I gotta personally figure out how to get over my hump in this game. I need to figure out some more
there's a lot to it.
Drills too. I love that you mentioned the drills as well. I'm wondering if there's any specific ones you want to share, because I love doing drills where you set up a situation and then you have the dummy do like one of 4 possible responses, and that works on just the muscle memory of dealing with it. Like a meaty throw situation, for example. What if they jump back? What if they neutral jump? What if they forward jump? What if they parry then drive rush? I don't know. And then you just loop I'm assuming you would then save the state and loop it and have them do all those options. And that way you at least build the muscle memory to respond appropriately to every action. And that's how I've learned a lot of things in this game. Like I picked up Terry and like learned how to do like Shoto style gameplay, which I never did before on like a leverless controller. That's the only way I was able to learn cross cutting and all this other stuff, was just looping that. So is there any like, if there's like one cool drill you could share, is there anyone you could think of that you have been using to improve? So
like people ask me about my anti-airs, and way back in the Street Fighter 5 days where I drilled it to the T to make sure I was on point with it. And I take pride in my anti-airs, and the drill that I mess with, it's very, very specific actually. So I'm gonna need y'all to picture this. So like, I had Cammy as the bot, as the dummy, and I had her do stand meeting. One recording had her do stand meeting kick into jump. Another recording was stand meeting kick and the stand fierce. So what I was doing was I would purposely block the stand meeting kick and then hit low forward as Rashid and into light eagle spike as a confirm if the low forward hit. So if she did stand meeting kick into jump, my low forward would whiff, but I would still do heavy mix to any air. If she did stand medium kick and a stand heavy punch, I would do low forward and I would hit the stand heavy punch during the startup, and I would confirm in the eagle spike. So that made me feel like even if I had a button out in neutral, I would still be ready to heavy mixer or just any air in general. I would still be ready to anti-air, because sometimes that just happens in neutral, right? You're pressing a button, but you're recovering time, so you are able to anti-air still. But sometimes people just freeze up because they think they're unable to. They didn't recover in time, but you actually did. So that's what I felt like helped me in my mindset, like having that muscle memory down is like, okay, whenever I do have the opportunity in air, I will anti-air. Right. So, but also get to confirm if I were to hit Cammy or whoever with my low forward or whatever button it may be. I feel like that actually helped my anti-airs a lot.
That's really interesting. That's very similar to the drills I started doing when learning Terry and all of that, like working on like a hit confirm situation. And if they are not in range or they're avoiding the hit confirm, it's because they're moving. How do you respond to that movement and never miss it? And the training mode makes it so easy now to do that with the multiple save states. And that really builds a confidence, because something like doing an anti-air after whiffing a button, it's something that everyone who, once you're like a competent Street Fighter player, you understand that intuitively. Like, if you block the jump in, you probably could have uppercutted it. I mean, it varies. Like the Shoto DPs would have worked. Maybe Rashid has like some invincibility frames, so you have to be a little more careful. But for the most part, even if you whiffed a move beforehand, if you ended up blocking the jump in and it wasn't a punish, you could have done an anti-air. So you're like, oh, yeah, I should have anti-aired. But knowing that is sometimes not enough to like get that into your muscle memory. So this drill you're setting up where you're increasing the mental stack to hit confirm in case the button is pressed, but also guarantee you get the anti-air if they jump in range, is really good. And I can imagine adding more options. Maybe they jump backwards or something. You know, you can add a few more layers to it just to split your attention. So that way you're not just like letting the anti-air rip autopilot on prediction. You know, like you're not gaming the drill. You're actually reacting to the situation. Those again, really help.
Like again though, something like this, like I'm willing to share, but it's not going to work for everybody. You know, maybe something like, because I hear people be like, "Oh, I be drilling this all day, every day," but I still don't have my muscle memory. Like, what do I do? Like, I mean, sometimes it's just not for you. Like, sometimes drills maybe it need just not be for you. Like, maybe you do have to go into ranked and have it a mindset that that's all you're gonna focus on. That might be better for you, but it's gonna be up to you to figure out what's best for you.
I think you gotta do a combination. I don't know. I do agree that people have to find their own ways, but I feel like they're just missing the final step of going to ranked and everything I just drilled right now. That's all I'm gonna focus on. You have to have that final step. Because so many people just autopilot, like. And I'm kind of an autopilot player myself, so I understand that struggle. But you have to go into matches like focusing on the one thing to break your autopilot and then celebrate that. Like I would have so many little minor interactions where I would autopilot some response, and I'm like, dude, all I'm going to do right now is do anything different in this situation. And if I do something different, even if I get hit or die for it, at least I did something different. You know, like at least I broke a habit, and now I can rebuild it from the ground up. So many players play robotic.
Acknowledgement is the best step towards it. Like you know, like if you go autopilot and you realize you got some, well, you don't realize how you got the hit, and even though you won the round, you like even you think like oh yeah, I think I am better because I did get a round this time, or I did get a game this time against certain player. But if you don't know how you got the round or the game, bro, like did you really get better? Did you autopilot low forward in a drive rush and it actually happened to work this time? So you know you did get the game, but you know, acknowledging how you got the hits is what's most important, I think.
You got to understand how you won. But you brought up in this mindset, there was a lot of it was from Marvel 3. So I think a lot of people who might watch this might not even know that, you know, you were a Marvel player originally. And like the earliest, you already mentioned you were playing with AA back in 2013. I checked your results in Wikipedia. The earliest results I saw for you, I think, was 2015. Marvel versus Capcom 3 at Combo Breaker 2015, where you got top 8. So was that your first tournament that you could think of, like your first major tournament, or were you competing in majors before then?
I went to final round actually that year, back when final round was a thing. But yeah, I went to final round. I believe I got 13th. That was, I think I would say that was my first big major actually. Final round 2015. Yeah, I got 13th there.
And how was that? Like, what was your relative understanding of your level at that time, and how did you end up getting on a plane, I'm assuming, to get to final round? Like, what was your mentality going into that?
Like, I was like 19 at the time, and I didn't really have like much understanding of the world because you know we're still like teenagers, right? So it's like I thought you had to spend like thousands of dollars to go to a major, get a hotel, food, all that. Like I didn't really know much about that. I just started a job actually, like my first job around 18 years old too. So it was like my understanding of money wasn't there like that. But then when I fully understood better, and like a lot of Midwest heads were going to final round, that's when I went to. And like I said, I got 13th. I feel like I did pretty well for myself in bracket. And actually, so F Champ won that tournament, and I went into the Salty Squid where him and a bunch of other top Marvel players were playing, and he was money matching people for like $20.
Okay.
So I was actually pretty scared to money match. I don't think I ever money matched like a top player before that. So I was afraid to do it. I was like, I wasn't gonna do it. But then LPZ, the Detroit player, played Morgan. He was like, "Yo, I'll spot you. Just go ahead." And I was like, oh, you know, fine, I'll do it. And I beat him actually. I beat him like 5-2 first set where he played Dorm. He played Dormammu, and then he played Phoenix the second set, and I beat him then too, 5-2 also. So then I was just like, yo, some random Deadpool like kid just came out of nowhere and just beat Champ, the person who won the whole thing, randomly just beat him. Because nobody knew who I really was at the time. Again, first time traveling to a big major. So that word got around, and I remember at the time, like people even brought up in the streams when he over streamed like weeks after, and so I mean that's a whole different story. I'll probably just share it anyways because it's fun to share. But yeah, people were bringing it up on the stream in the stream chat, and eventually he was like, "Yo, if your boy wants to play me for a high stakes money match, then yeah, let him know, and I'll do it." Because he was all about that, right? Champ played for like $1,000 for all kinds of money matches. Again, I was just 19 years old. I was in college. I worked at McDonald's. What kind of money was I going to come up with for just playing Marvel and working at McDonald's? But we talked on Twitter a bit, and we agreed we're going to do $1,000 money match at EVO. And so many people think I was going to get washed. So many people would think I would even get like 5 games. I had confidence in myself because I mean I put $1,000 on it anyways with the help of some friends. But the months leading up to that, Jeff Chan's actually my favorite player of all time. I'll always say that. And like the way I training mode, actually, it was because of him. Like he streamed 16 hours a day. He did all kinds of training mode in his on his stream. As BS as Marvel is, like he would always still trying to find an answer to it. And he did. He always did find an answer. So like I owe a lot to, even though the limited resources you have with Marvel 3 training mode, because it's not that good. He still found a way to go about it, and you know he's the evil champ for a reason in that game. So I owe a lot to him. So like I was like I get to play $1,000 money match against my favorite player. I know a lot of his habits. That's why I was able to beat him the first 2 times. So I was down to do it, and the months leading up to it, oh man, bro, I did like all kinds of notes, all kinds of training. I had a indie homeboy. Who played his exact team, Mag Doom Phoenix, and like just spent months and months training. Even your editor Alex knows about all that. He was there for that too. Right. When the time came, again, everybody think I was gonna get washed, and I feel like it was going back and forth. 1-1, 2-2, 3-3. I ended up winning the first of 5 in that set, 5-4.
Wow.
And it just kept going back and forth until the very end, where it ended up being like 15-11 in his favor. So I did have to give up the $1,000. But yeah, I just felt like me coming up in the Marvel scene was I owe a lot to him when it comes to like the hard work I put in to be the kind of Marvel player that I was, and I was able to play like my favorite player. So it was cool. It all came around, you know, it all came full circle. So it was cool experience overall, and that's how I got to come up as a fighting game player overall, basically.
No, that's huge. I didn't know about this money match. Like the fact that, I mean, first of all, shout out to, you said it was LPZ who spotted you.
Yeah, almighty LPZ played Beautiful Joe, Doom Morgan.
Yeah, he spotted you the 20 to give you that confidence boost because you were in the room finally with like your idols of the game, the champion of the tournament you were just at, and you didn't have the confidence, or maybe you didn't have the money to make you confident at the time to throw $20 to fight the champ. He spotted you, and I'm guessing you made him some money there, and then got you the confidence, and then to go 15-11 and a really close set, high stakes at EVO with your favorite player, like that's huge. Like that is a real like catapult of your trajectory in the scene to go from like unknown, Marvel player grinding in Indiana to being like a person who could potentially take high stakes money matches off of, one of the best players in the world of the game. So that's an awesome story. I knew you were winning like or doing really well in the Marvel scene, but I didn't know like when it began because the first time I think I'd seen some of your gameplay. I believe was EVO 2016 the next year, because you got top 8 that year, right?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, and not only did you get top 8, I had to check the Wikipedia results to verify that you put Chris G in losers.
Yeah.
To make top 8. Yeah, what was that set like?
So like he was beating me all year, bro. I mean, as he was beating everybody all year, every year. But I bumped into him like 4 times before Evo, and this came to the point where like I actually had a name for myself now, and I was beating players left and right. But I wasn't beating Chris. And it would get to the point where like I was just labbing stuff just for him. Like I labbed so many, everything I told you when I come to like me labbing Street Fighter 6. I'll tell you, right? Like I hate not knowing things. Like it's kind of like patch culture is like still weird to me because like some new things come out, new characters come out. I hate learning DLC matchups because like it's a new thing. I hate not knowing what the frame data is, what my strategy is supposed to be against said character. I hate that. Marvel 3 never updates. So like whatever was good for me to use against Zero in 2013 is still good for me to use today. So I developed strategies against every single character, every single assist, almost every single player. Like I just put so many hours and hours and hours. I would wake up at 10 a.m. to training mode. This when I was like 17. I would wake up at 10 a.m. on a Saturday to training mode Marvel 3, and I wouldn't stop until 10 p.m. Like that's how much time I put into this training mode nonsense and figuring out strategies against every character. Yeah, regarding Chris, like I was labbing so much just against him because he was beating me so many times, and I was even worried when I had to play him at EVO because, like, bro, like the one player I struggle against the most. Like, I could have fought any other player, and I felt like I had a chance of making top 8. But look, so be it. Let me just play him, and I came with new strategies, new developments. And if you, there's like a what's it called? Shout out to Papa Lobster. He made like a whole in depth on like how the set went. Makes Marvel analytical videos.
I love his videos. One of my favorite.
Yeah, they're great. And those one of the sets he went over. And just so much went in that set. Also back and forth. Ended up being 3-1. And it's like, those were actually, I wasn't still in my pop-off era at the time because I had some few pop-offs during the Street Fighter 5 era, but I wasn't popping off right then and there. I was more like confused. Like, bro, this actually happened? Like, I actually made top 8? Like, I actually beat Chris G to make top 8? Like, what the hell? What's this? So when it did happen, it was just like, damn. Like, it didn't hit me until like the next day kind of thing. It was just an amazing feeling. Like, my favorite game against also one of my favorite players, actually. If you play Marvel 3, like, how can Chris G not be like one of your favorite players at least?
Or one of your least favorite? I feel like you have to pick one extreme. You got to pick one of the extremes, right? He's either your favorite or the player you hate the most of all time. Either side
of the spectrum, you know?
So like, two sides of the same coin, really, right?
But he was also one of my favorite players. So it was cool that what kind of strategy I came up with at the end of the day. And again, the similar formula to what I use today in Street Fighter 6, it all comes around still. And that's when I knew how I had to go about finding certain strategies against these players and whatnot. So it was a great feeling.
So how was it playing on the EVO Top 8 stage then? Because this was my favorite EVO stage, 2016, and the few years that I was in the Mandalay Stadium, right? I mean, they have the huge stadium. You're playing on the stage that's shaped like the EVO icon, right? They have the giant projectors above head so that everyone can see the action. Like a beautiful stage. I mean, that is the EVO stage I think of, which shows like the scale of it all, really. To this day, that's my favorite EVO stage. So what was it like actually stepping out onto that thing and playing in that top 8?
It was actually the first year it was at Mandalay.
Right.
So it's weird. It's funny for me because like, I don't know, it didn't really feel any different. Like
well,
I was, honestly, like I feel like that's how it was. I was playing. I feel like I'm not. What I learned about myself recently, for the longest time, I thought like I never get nervous. And whether it be Evo stage, whether it be a top 32 match, a pools match, it doesn't really feel that much different for me. I feel like I don't get that much nervous, at least for the longest time I did. So like when I played up there, it just felt like any other match to me, which is good for me. I felt like my first match against Angelic, I didn't do too well. I got 3-0'd. But and then I fought Vanith next, and we were just talking about his team and how chaotic it can be. So like playing nervous against his team, you're just gonna get washed, because you get touched, you're just done. Your rest of the team is done. I ended up winning that set. And even when I won that set, like I just no emotion. I just went to shake his hand. Well, he was actually kind of salty. He had his face in his hand, so I waited for him to not get salty, and then I went to shake his hand. Yeah, it was no emotion for me, no pop off, no nothing. And then I lost to Chris right after, and then again it was like, I guess whatever. I got fourth place, cool. And I guess it was just like, yeah, it was a combination of like me being young, but also like as a person, but also as a player, but also like, you know, I just felt like the way I handle my nerves is just picture like it is going to be just any other match anytime. So
that's
yeah, that's how I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get nervous as a player, but there have been times where like my best tournament runs, I looking back at them, I realized I had no emotion. Like every best tournament run at like the few top 8s I cracked at like a premiere or like whatever, it's like I look back at it, I'm like, man, I just did not I was just flat the entire time. And if I could tap into that more often, that'd be great. It seems like you're kind of in that zone all the time. Occasionally I notice like a little bit of emotion from you here and there, and those are standout moments, like when your anti-air gets stuffed or something like that, then you can see a reaction on the player cam.
That I gotta work on. But like I think what I figured about myself recently, like I was telling you, when it kind of goes hand in hand with the nerves thing. I realized I do get nervous because at Frosty's this year when I played Punk and Grand Finals, and that went down to the wire. I remember there was a time where I asked what the score was because I forgot what the score was in the reset. So I went to look at the crowd. Like I took out my headset, I went to the crowd and I was like, "Yo, 2-1," like this. And and then afterwards, my friends were telling me when I got off stage, like, "Yo, you were nervous, ain't you?" Like I was like, "Nah, I don't think so." I was like, "Yeah, your hands were shaking when you asked for the score." I was like, "Hey, really?" And if you look back at the video, my hands were shaking like crazy. Actually,
right. I
understand now that I do get nervous. But I have ways to like completely forget about that and just focus at the match at hand. Like I talk to myself a lot in my head. Like I try to boost myself up, like my confidence, everything. Like if I'm down and out, like if I'm down 2-0, I'd be telling myself like, damn, I can't wait to reverse this 3-0 this guy. Back in the Marvel days when I'm down to my Hawkeyes, like, bro, I have the best Hawkeye in the world. I'm chilling. Like I tell myself stuff like that. But also like, you know, I could acknowledge that the nerves are there, but also just not pay attention to them. So that's why I feel like I got over it and realized that I do have nerves because I was shaking when I was doing this. And after a match is over, I do still shake when I'm like closing up my backpack. So when I'm not like beforehand and afterwards, like I'm shaking like crazy, but I don't feel me shaking when I have my control in my hand playing. So it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it and just get over it right then and there. Focus on other things like the match. Yeah.
Well, would you argue that it's nerves or adrenaline? And is there a difference between the two? Right? Because I feel like sometimes I think the source of it is adrenaline, and I think how you manage it is whether it manifests as nerves or not. Because I like that you mentioned that you acknowledge it and then get through it. Because I think to me, the worst way to approach it is to try to act like you're not nervous or like you're not having an adrenaline-inducing moment. I think when you're fighting your natural state in that moment, that conflict internally manifests itself in you falling apart and not being able to manage it. Because I think if you not acknowledging it is acknowledging enough, or no, my bad. You not acknowledging it and denying it is like you putting too much focus onto that. Yeah,
you're denying it so much that
you're fighting two battles. You're fighting the game and then you're fighting yourself internally at the same time. Like sometimes you have adrenaline boosting, you're nervous, so it's like that is what it is, right?
It's okay.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, they're like, "Oh, how do you get better at tournament nerves?" And I'm like, you just keep going to tournaments and dealing with it, right? Like you're gonna be nervous while you're playing. And the other thing I always say is like, just make it so that when you're nervous, you're still better than your opponent when they're at their best. Like your nervous self is better than your opponent at their best, and just believe that. Like it is, you're not gonna get rid of it.
I tell myself too. Like I'd be like, yo, like even when like some days I'd be playing sloppy, I'd be telling myself like that's how I gas myself up too. Actually, it's like even when I'm nervous, I feel like I should still beat you, even if I'm messing up all my inputs, all my my execution errors and everything. I feel like I should still beat you. Like my pad's messing up, I feel like I should still beat you. Like that's why I'd be telling myself that all the time. Actually, I have my own ways of pep talking myself, and like again, I talk to myself in my head all the time, and that's just some of the phrases that could be going through my head. Actually,
interesting. Yeah, you have to believe.
A lot goes into it. Yeah.
But it's okay. So in 2016 though, so you're still playing Marvel 3. That's when Street Fighter V releases, and I don't think you were playing Street Fighter V upon release, right? Because you do 2016 Marvel 3, and then 2017, you're still playing Marvel Infinite, right?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So when did you start picking up Marvel Infinite? I mean, you did it on release, but like, were you playing Street Fighter V at this time at all? Like, how did you actually balance this transition between MVC3, Infinite, and then Street Fighter V? Because you weren't playing initially on release.
Yeah, so like the first 2 years of Street Fighter V, I actually didn't enter EVO at all. Like I would enter locals every now and then just to like play. Because I was actually having fun with the game, but I was still so focused on Marvel because, you know, like even when Marvel Infinite came out, like, you know, some things were kind of promised, but you know, the way Marvel Infinite turned out, it didn't end up being that way. But I was still playing a lot of Marvel Infinite during 2017. Marvel 3, I was also playing a lot because the Marvel Infinite got announced. But I was playing Marvel Infinite pretty heavily until I was playing Street Fighter V on the side as well, but until towards like 2018 was my last year. I think 2019 is when I was like Frosties. Yeah, so January 2019 when I was like, okay, I think it's actually time for me to just stop playing Marvel Infinite, put all my focus on Street Fighter V. And that's what ended up happening. And I would, like, this whole time, like I said, I was playing Street Fighter V on the side. It's not like I stopped completely. But I really tried my best to play 2 games at once, Marvel 3 and Street Fighter 5, or Marvel Infinite and Street Fighter 5. I'm just not good at that. At least to the expectations I put on myself, I didn't reach them. So, like, shout out to some of the GOATs, bro, like Justin, Sonic, all of them who could play multiple games and be some of the best in the world in multiple games. I can't do that. And at this point, I don't want to do that. So I eventually just dropped Marvel Infinite. Picked up Street Fighter V in 2019, and that's when I felt like I started popping off again. 2019 was a good year for me in the Street Fighter V world. So yeah, that's where I learned a lot about myself within those years, actually.
Right. I don't think, you know, you mentioned the GOATs playing multiple games, and when I really think about it, I think that's a bygone era, right? Who in 2016 Street Fighter V era and beyond, which I feel like 2016 with the CPT, that's like really when the esports scene kicked to the next level, right? I mean, Street Fighter 4 era was an amazing era, extremely competitive and amazing tournaments and amazing gaming community at the time. But I mean, the CPT, I feel like matured in 2016, really 2017, I think is when it reached its like peak maturity. And, you know, suddenly your people are competing for that $250,000 prize pool at the end of the year. There's a world tour going on. Suddenly there's this cabal of Japanese players like traveling to every tournament. Like, imagine showing up the final round in 2015 and there's 20 top level Japanese players there, right? Yeah. That is absurd to think about. But come next year in 2017, they're all there, right? There's Itazan, Tokido, Daigo, Kazunoko, whatever, Momochi, they're all there at every tournament. Like, we were seeing these people every other week, and it's like, how the hell are they doing it? First of all, it's crazy, but that didn't exist prior. So I don't think that even existed post 2016. The winning or dominating or being successful in 2 games at once that are of that like tier 1 FGC caliber, I just don't think that's possible anymore. That's true.
Because even Marvel wasn't like I mean, it was hard to be good at Marvel, but it's not as hard as Street Fighter 6, Street Fighter 5 even at the time as it was before. So like, and if I couldn't do it at Marvel, like there's no way I could do like a Street Fighter and Tekken kind of like arc, you know, like there's no way I'm doing something like that. Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, definitely can't.
That's a bygone era. And it's funny you say that. So that means that you think being consistent right now is harder in Street Fighter than Marvel, because I think a lot of people would look at a game like Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 6 and they have a reputation for being easy, right? The games themselves are easy. And I would argue that Marvel 3 is a much harder game to play, right? I think it's a much more technically advanced game. So are you saying that it's harder to compete in the Street Fighter titles just because of the level of competition or the game itself? That's
crazy. I feel like I kind of just got asked this recently. I actually got asked like where do I think I'm better in my prime? So it kind of goes hand in hand though. So like, it's weird. I could talk about like this for a while, by the way, but like it's weird. Like, I do think it's easier to get like top 48. Like, it's easier to place lower in Street Fighter 6 than it is in Marvel, but it's harder to beat Chris G than probably any player in the hardest player in Street Fighter 6 actually. So like, a Punk and that's not like regarding his skill or Chris G's skill. I just think like the game at hand. So yeah, I guess it is because the game's harder. But yeah, I struggled so many times against Chris G that it would be hard to beat him than probably the best player in the world at Street Fighter 6. But you could just get got by anybody, a lot of people in Street Fighter 6. That's due to the population as well. But I would say like also the game is much more controlling in Marvel, actually. As wild and chaotic as it looks, I think it's way easier to be controlling in that game versus Street Fighter 6. Because you could just get perfect parry and like, what, you're going to tell yourself you shouldn't have gotten perfect parry there? I mean, you probably should as a competitor who's trying to get better, yeah. But realistically, like, you wouldn't have predicted someone just perfect parry your low four at mid-range. Like, sometimes it just happens. But that you could lose a round because of it. Now, a nutty zero holding Buster, like, there's still, like, some kind of strategy to it. X Factor is a huge mechanic that, like, matters a lot with Dark Virgil. But I would even argue that's more controlling than having to deal with some of the mechanics in Street Fighter. Whether it be Street Fighter 5 or 6, actually.
That's true. And I think people who don't understand that, who've seen maybe the highlights of MVC3, should watch you play because you are lame as hell, dude. Like, if people don't understand how lame Marvel could be, you are zoning people out. You are zoning them like crazy in that game. It's
so weird. People be like, "Oh, you picked up Rashid just because he plays Marvel." Like, bro, if you watch any of my Marvel gameplay, I don't play as chaotic as you think I do. I'm not picking Rashid just for that. I just picked Rashid because I thought he was cool. That's it. It's like that had nothing to do with Marvel.
But even your Rashid gameplay, I mean, I think you're more offensive now due to the nature of Street Fighter 6, but like your Street Fighter 5 Rashid was dry as hell. All respect to you. I mean, like, that's a compliment. You played extremely slow. Yeah, you never took offensive risks. I mean, you took offensive risks like everyone has to do to get a win, but you were not overextending. You were not trying to overwhelm someone's mental stack in neutral or on offense to try to get like a sneaky jump in or some kind of cheeky offensive sequence. It was just footsies and anti-airs and just control. And then you would earn your knockdown and get your like basic strike throw mix very safe. And then if someone tried to jump out, you would anti-air them and then, rinse and repeat. And you did that to great success, like just pure fundamentals. So it shows based on your Marvel gameplay as well. So yeah, people might not have the right idea based on their assumptions about Rashid, especially in Street Fighter 6.
Yeah,
because Street Fighter 5, you were slow, controlled.
Some of it was kind of like me being flawed as a player too, though. I feel like I don't know if you notice. I mean, it sounds like you notice. Lately with Street Fighter 6, I feel like I drive rush more. I jump a lot more. Old Street Fighter 5 me would not have been doing it. Yeah. I don't be dashing. I don't be jumping in Street Fighter 5. But I take those initiations more in this game because I feel like you have to. In the game like Street Fighter, it doesn't matter Street Fighter, I think, either. But in a game like Street Fighter, you have to take those risks. Like I'm playing to win. Like whether you want to call that scrubby or not, like so be it. Like I felt like I had the mindset of like playing like consistency. So the neutral aspect things, like you said, poking, anti-airing, checking dashes in Street Fighter 5, that's what I always aim for. But sometimes you just got to take risks against some of these players. And if they struggle to anti-air or they struggle to check your drive rushes, so be it. You're just trying to take the dub anyways, bro. So like, I don't care how the job's supposed to get done. Just the job got to get done. And that's how I took it more. I feel like I had trouble understanding whether it's the game forcing me to do it or it's my growth as a player. And I think it's both, actually. The mechanics at hand definitely helped me with that, but also I understand more like, I just got to get the dub in this certain way, and so be it if that's the case.
Right. No, I think that's growth as a player, because I remember we've had these conversations before, like about your gameplay in Street Fighter 5, because I think that was one of my critiques about your gameplay was that like, sometimes the slow and steady approach was good, but I mean, there's something to be said about just sneaking in a random dash and then getting a throw or like a frame trap because they didn't check it in time, or like a random jump. And Rashid had amazing jumps in Street Fighter 5, even better than Street Fighter 6, I believe. So like he had the tools to just steal a turn, random whirlwind, and then roll in and then get the offense going. And you would never do those things, which occasionally, not occasionally, but often worked. But then there were sometimes I'm like, dude, I feel like you could just win. Even when you were playing me, I was like, you're making my life easier. Because like you're so slow that I'm like, thank you. And a significantly less fundamentally strong Rashid, I would be losing to or having such a hard time with because they just wouldn't give a damn. Then I'm like, oh, Dual Kevin, thank God he's so slow and patient because I don't have to stress about random this, random that. But you still found success in Street Fighter V. Like you said, 2019, you were buckling down and competing. And I think like when I think about your time in Street Fighter V, I always think back to CEO 2019. That was when I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like your first really, really big premier offline top 8, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was like the first year I've like dropped everything and played Street Fighter 5. I think I remember quitting my job at the time and I was playing Street Fighter 5, which
So
probably
wait,
not look back on it.
Were you still in school? I wanted to clarify on that. You said you were in college. You were working McDonald's to fund your way to final round. So this is 4 years later, right? 2015, 2019. Later, yeah. So what's going on in your life at this time?
Yeah, and during the school, I only I got my associate's degree in 1 year. Next year, I did it at a community college and I transferred to university. But after 1 year, I was like, yo, school's not for me. So I just kind of I stopped going to school. And then I worked as a bank. I worked as a teller for the longest time. So then that's how I helped my funds to get to these tournaments. But then I saved enough and I was like, yo, I actually want to make it big in Street Fighter. Because that's where the actual money is, which is part of the reason why I dropped Marvel Infinite. So I ended up quitting my job because I felt like that was going to take too much of my time if I really want to put focus on Street Fighter 5. Hindsight, that was a bad decision. But it turned out the way I am right now, which I'm in a good spot right now. I'm chilling. But it wasn't a best decision back then. But that is what happened. And yeah, I think so. Texas Showdown was actually the first event that I went unemployed. So and
hey,
I
full-time professional, not unemployed.
Yeah, how about that? Wasn't on a team or anything, but yeah, I was full-time professional, right? I was dedicated to the game. So yeah, first event there, I actually made top 8. I actually made top 8 in my first ranking event. So that was my first top 8 at a CPT event ever. And I placed like 3rd, and I did pretty well for myself. And then CEO was next month. And that's I made my first top 8 at Premiere. So like I was finding the kind of success I was looking for when it comes to putting all my time into it, and like again how I practice, how I train. Because I wasn't always like that when it comes to my training too. I had my down days, as any other competitor did. Like there were days where I was playing ranked, I was getting washed, and I was like, damn, maybe I am just a Marvel player, or like maybe I am just like a Rashid fraud, whatever it may be. Like we all had those days. But when I did do well for myself, it's like when all the pieces were coming together. I had that great match against Ryusei.
Right. Yeah, I want to go into detail about that. Actually, I want to go into detail about your run, because that tournament, I think, really elevated you to like a level that, I mean, we competed a lot in the Midwest as well, and the Midwest scene knew how good you were. But I still feel like I was really surprised. Like I remember seeing that you beat, I believe, Smug and 801 Strider back to back, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, damn, okay. Like, because, at that time, especially, Smug and Strider are cooking. Like, Smug is doing amazing. He's on G at that time, I believe. And so is Strider. And, they're both Capcom Cup qualifiers, and they make it back to Capcom Cup that year as well. And then you go on, I'm checking the bracket, you lose to Daigo, but then you beat Momochi to make top 8. And it's like, what the hell? Like, that's a crazy run. Like, I don't think before this time you beat players of that caliber consistently, or any like top level Japanese players, right? Like getting a set win over Momochi. Was that your first one?
Momochi was probably the best player I beat at that time. I actually did play Ryusei, but I don't know how known he was at the time. I actually played him in an LCQ the year before.
Okay.
Which is why I was actually pretty confident in myself going into the next match, because against Ryusei at top 8. But yeah, Daigo, that was probably the first time I played him. And barely lost to him.
Right.
Momochi also first time I played him. Yeah, I think that was my first big win against an international player for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, because then you get into this top 8, and it's in the CEO, the big stage that they have there. This is when they're still in Daytona, but they had the nice arena, and you're in the wrestling ring, and you have all of Midwest there on the side cheering you on, and you go down 0-2 versus Ryusei, but you're playing at this time, especially in Street Fighter V, where you're slow, steady, extremely solid gameplay, and then you just keep winning and winning and winning, and eventually you bring it all the way back to win 3-2. You pop off, and they cut to the crowd, and I'll always remember that's where like the Rob ugly crying screenshot comes from. You have the Midwest crew there. I think Jack's there, Classico's there, and then Rob was like, ah! like shaking the ring. He's like tears down his eyes, that ugly crying face.
That was great, bro.
It's an amazing moment. So how did that feel to be able to be in your first CPT Top 8 premiere against a top level Japanese player down 0-2 and bring it all the way back for the home crowd like that?
Yeah, like I said, I always just try to like focus on my own game plan. And if you pay attention to any of my matches, even to this day, like I never hit rematch instantly, because I always try to remind myself and talk to myself about my game plan against a certain player or character. So yeah, again, focus at the match at hand, and was like, even when I was down 0-2, I told her like, I can't wait to bring this back 3-0, and it ended up happening. I was on the verge though. Like I was down 2-0, I was down a round, I was down to like 10% health, I believe. And even then, like I was still playing my patient old self. I had whatever game plan I had, I went with it, and like I was slowly making the comeback. Every read I was making was correct. I was still like, I knew he was gonna dash at this specific moment, and he did, and I checked it, and I ended up bringing it back 2-2. He ended up getting the next round, but I still had my game plan. Like he's gonna whip the knee right here, and he did. So I whip punished my low forward. And then again, all my reads on offense were correct, and yeah, I was able to bring back the dub, and that's when I popped off for sure. Because again, I was still like, this is my first premiere, bro, and I brought it back to down 0-2, like I said I was gonna. In my head, like nobody else knew I was saying that, but in my head, I told myself I was gonna bring it back, and I did. I was like the only American. I was like, the only Rashid, because Rashid was popping during that year. He was like top 3. And yeah, bro, it was just a high moment overall. I was very happy for myself within that time. Yeah,
that was a sick moment, and you had a pretty good year that year overall. Like, I don't think you had a similar like top 8 appearance, but you had a lot of good performances. And I remember, First Attack. So I don't even know if you recall this. Remember First Attack 2019? You get 9th place at that premiere, and then we're at the after party in Puerto Rico, and you're talking about, I was talking to you, and I was like congratulating you on having such a good year, and how you were on the precipice of qualifying. And then you told me you weren't going to go to Canada Cup, the final premiere for the season. And then I was like, maybe a few or a lot of drinks in, I was like, no, dude, you got to go to Canada Cup. I'm going to get you to Canada Cup.
I remember this.
And we actually banded together. I did a little stream fundraiser. I put some of my own funds in there. And then a lot of the Marvel community came through, crowdfund basically you to go to Canada Cup. So you're actually the first and only player I've ever sponsored. I don't know if you know that you have that title.
I remember that.
I had you. What was it? The dumpster
tag? Dual Kevin. The dumpster dual Kevin. Yeah.
Dumpster dual Kevin sent you to Canada Cup, which that was awesome. That your community really came through and did the heavy lifting. The whole Marvel crowd is supporting you. Unfortunately, Canada Cup didn't really work out in your favor. That was a weird tournament, though. You played like Chris G round 1, round 2 was JB. I got premier points for that tournament, and I went 0-2. It was a premier tournament, and they give points out. I believe it was top 64 and above. And there was 2 DQs, including like Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes didn't show up, so I beat Snake Eyes because he DQ'd. But I lost to Sarah Blast and Mr. Crimson back to back.
Oh,
so I went 0-2 that tournament, and I got points. So it was a weird, weird tournament.
It was actually, that was actually a good Canada Cup though. But yeah, the actual tournament, it was strange. It was weird.
Yeah, because so many people didn't show up because of the year before was such a train wreck. So this was still a premier tournament, but it didn't have the numbers to support that. Yeah, it was a weird time. But I was proud to have helped you get out there. But you ended that season, I think, ranked like 40th or something. Like you didn't crack into the top 32. And you said at this time you quit your job, like you're full time. So how are you handling that at that time? Like how are you reacting to the fact that you didn't make it to the Capcom Cup? Are you like regretting this decision to go all in on gaming? Like I wonder where your mindset is, because you took that leap to make this your primary goal.
So
really.
I mean, not making it the Capcom Cup or anything, I was still feeling like okay, like as a player, like I was still proud of my accomplishment and everything. Money wise, things were a little bit tight. I mean, as you helped me get the Canada Cup, so like it wasn't the greatest look for me. It wasn't like I was dead broke, but it was a little bit scary. It could have been better. But it was also around the time, like towards the end of that year, actually, that if you remember, so Knuckle Dude hit me up I ran out of time talking about moving in together with him, Rob TV, and it was actually supposed to be Mena at that time too, but that never came to be. Yeah, so like in 2020, I ended up moving in with them. It was me, Knuckle Doom, Rob TV, because we were gonna do this like gamer house. Well, it was we shared the same property. It was two different houses, but shared the same property. And I was living with Rob at the time. Dude was living with him and his family. And yeah, we were just doing this gamer house. Like we really wanted to like buckle down, all of us get into Capcom Cup for this upcoming 2020 year. Strategize, play all kinds of sets, and just try to be like the best players we can be from that house. It never happened because of COVID, and that's when everything kind of went downhill. Like I moved in that January, and like peak quarantine happened like 2 months after.
Right.
So yeah, that whole plan of getting better from the house, it was a great idea, and people were excited about it too, hearing what could come from it, from all of us moving together. But yeah, just nothing really happened from it actually.
Yeah. Rob was even posting I remember some hype up videos, because Rob is more into the social media side of things, right? So he knows how to hype up whatever. So he was posting all kinds of like little Twitter videos and stuff promoting
like
it,
promos,
doing promos essentially. Like, we're getting like a Street Fighter house because F Champ had fighting game, the FGTV house going on during the Marvel era. We thought we're maybe going to get the next iteration of that, especially like Rob kind of leading, because you and Do are more reserved people, so with Rob there'd be someone actually pushing stuff out to the internet so we can see what's going on, right? But then COVID happens, that all goes away. Everything goes online. Well, we don't even know at this time. 2020 was still like the weird year where we didn't really know what was going to happen. Eventually, they did come out with the format with like the CPT qualifiers, which ended up going nowhere because there was no Capcom Cup for the next 2 years. So did you end up moving back home to Indiana? Like what happened with your life then?
So like Rob ended up moving back after like a few months, and then like 9 months later is when I moved back, because like I was still chilling, hanging around, peak quarantine. I was like, maybe this will die out, but then eventually we all started to realize it's not gonna be gone for a while. So 9 months later is when I decided to move back. That's when I decided to get a job I went back to the bank actually. So I ended up being a banker instead of a teller. So I was actually a true banker this time around, for like the next years or so, something like that. Yeah, that was 2020, 2021, a year and a half, something like that. And then 2022, I'm trying to remember exactly. When did Street Fighter 6 come out?
2023. So 2021, 2021, you were still competing because that's when we were close to. We competed a lot in the Midwest region for CPT Online. So I do know, at least, I don't know if you're working at the bank at that time or not, but you were competing there. Yeah. That's when we played in the Midwest #2. Like, one of us making it into the Capcom Cup.
Now it's all coming back. Okay, yeah. So I was working at a time, and I was on the fence. Like you probably see me. Like I was like competing sometimes I wasn't, because like that was one times like I was actually getting sick of Street Fighter 5. Like I don't know if I can really do this anymore, bro. Like I'll just wait for Street Fighter 6. I know it's gonna come soon eventually from rumors. And Street Fighter 6 was announced in time. So like rumors, it's gonna come soon eventually. I'll just wait on that. But then like that competitive spirit inside me was still going off, and it's like, bro, I still want to compete in some way. So there were times where I was competing, like when we played in the World Warrior, or it wasn't World War at the time. It was just
the
premiere.
CPT online qualifiers. Yeah,
it was the premiere. Yeah, so I'll just practice for this, and maybe I could make Capcom Cup. So be it. So then they came around to being that. But I worked for like a year and a half, and then Street Fighter 6 got announced, and then I quit my job, but due to other reasons, like me not liking it, and I was doing Uber Eats for a while, actually, for like almost a year. Right before Street Fighter 6 came out is when I stopped that entirely again. I was taking a big risk once again because I didn't have anything too much lined up. But I have full faith in myself once again with Street Fighter 6. Don't be like me, y'all. I'll be taking too much risk. Don't be like me though. It's too risky. It's too risky to do so. It's just luckily.
I mean, there's a common theme though. Like everyone I've talked to so far, it's like they find their success by taking that risk. There's I mean, that's just kind of I mean, personally, I'm risk adverse myself. This whole time I did school and working whatever and done on the side, but everyone else has found more success, and usually I find there's something to that where if you really want to achieve something, you have to eliminate alternatives to a degree. Now, would I recommend that? Maybe not, but if you want to achieve greatness in something, sometimes you got to go all in, right?
Yeah, and
So
I guess like
it's hard to call, really, in hindsight.
you do have to have a plan for it. I mean, I was still live with my mom at the time too, so that helped, of course. But like, I still like had a plan of like what I was gonna do. Like, I remember streaming during the beta days too. Like, I was streaming a lot, and like I had somewhat of a name for myself. Like, it was still Street 5. Like, it wasn't popping for me like how it was now. So like, I still like had some kind of name to myself. I had some kind of plan. I was doing YouTube content way back when I was doing it, but I wasn't
8
just
videos
going.
Doesn't count, dude. That doesn't count. You never did YouTube content. You keep saying this. I'm trying to stress you never did YouTube. And I want to bring this up too. Isn't your brother like a million subscriber YouTuber?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he actually streams Call of Duty. He's like a big sniper head in the Call of Duty realm, and yeah, he has over 1 million subs.
What's his YouTube name again? Can you?
BAMS. It's just BAMS. It's just BAMS. BAMS.
BAMS.
Yeah.
So your brother, 1.39 million subscribers on YouTube, and he uploads nearly daily, and he's getting 200K, 400K. Daily views. Some lore there with we both wanted to be content creators when we were young, because back in the montage days when shooters, everybody who was a big shooter head in the YouTube realm, they all did that. We also wanted to do that, so that's why he stuck with that, the idea of content creation. I went to the more competitive side of things, but yeah, we both wanted to do that for the longest time. Back when you had to get like a Dazzle or a Hotbog. Right.
Way back. But he stuck with that more. And I was more like, I just want to compete.
Is he your younger brother or older brother?
He's younger. He's actually exactly a year younger. We share the same birthday, but a year younger. Yeah, it's crazy.
that is some lore. Yeah, I kind of wanted to bring this up earlier. I was surprised I should have brought it up when you were mentioning the YouTube, because I kind of I feel like you're being a little stubborn here. You have 8 videos out on your YouTube channel over the course of years. Your brother, on the other hand, has 717 videos and 1.4 million subscribers.
Yeah.
You share the same birthday. Maybe you could share some like YouTube tips, strategy. You know what I'm saying?
I do go to him every now and then. Again, at the end of the day, it's more of me wanting to do it or not, and it's me pushing myself to do it. I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to YouTube stuff, as you could tell. But I do go up to him, like even with streaming, I still go up to him for advice every now and then. He tells me, I should be doing this, and that. But sometimes it's also like come off like, he told me like maybe I should do this more, but like I feel like it's more to the YouTube audience. Like he was telling me like I should do wager matches more or money matches in our scene. Like I should do more money matches and with fighting games, like wager matches in the Call of Duty world. Yeah, that makes more sense. But here, not so much. You can't really do it for like an entire stream.
But the thing that makes sense is just putting videos out. Like we mentioned before about how working on a skill, there's different ways to approach it. But to me, the number one thing of any skill is to just do it. Yes. I see in yourself, you're caught in this loop that people get caught in, where they're always thinking about the best way to do something, and they're expending tons of mental energy, and they feel like they're progressing in whatever avenue they want to pursue, but really you're still in the same spot. You're still in step 1 because you just haven't done it, and you need to do it bad many times before it slowly gets better.
That is true.
The number one thing is to just do it. This is like thinking about practicing or thinking about getting better at Street Fighter, but never booting up the game. The number one thing you got to do is just do it. Like that is the number one thing to do. And I'm just so shocked that you have this brother who is extremely successful on YouTube, way more successful than anyone in the FGC. I mean, even Max, I feel like he's more successful than Maximilian, which is nuts to say. No, okay, Max has a few more subscribers, but his average viewership is way higher. So, like, extremely successful. And you haven't picked up any of it. I mean, you're successful in your own way, which is in the competitive aspect. But
I guess, I guess
have to assume the content side is more lucrative, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the biggest thing you said about me having to, like, not be good at first is what most likely is holding me back. Because, like, I'm thinking, what you said, like, everything I'm thinking of, like, I want to make this video that I want to watch and perfect to the T. Like,
right.
I want to be proud of the video, but I'm not proud of all my performances.
Right.
When it comes to tournaments, and that's going to happen as a competitor. It's going to be the same thing happen as a content creator, like you probably wish you did a video better, but it's still out there. And maybe some people still enjoy it, even though you don't really like it yourself. So I guess that's like, bro, even when like highlights from your Twitch videos that you upload, you just tweet out. Again, I'm not a social media guy like that. You should be doing that too, right? As a live streamer, you should be like just like clip a highlight and just tweet it out. Make it as a funny Twitch clip or exciting, whatever it may be. There'll be times I'd be tweeting a Twitch clip and then I'm like, this isn't me, and I'll just backspace it and never actually tweet it out.
Sure,
like
I understand.
That's how
I've
I
done
am.
That before.
Yeah, that's how I am, and just like, but again, it's like, fuck it, bro. Just like you said, just do it. You're gonna fail, maybe most likely more so at first than later on. Yeah, you're gonna have to take those shortcomings so you can actually like prosper later on.
The main thing I always say is don't let perfection be the enemy of good. You know what I mean? Like you're aiming for perfection, but maybe you could do something that's good or good enough. And the whole point is execution is king. And anything you're doing, ideas are great, but if you don't execute on any ideas, you literally have nothing to show for it. So you should aim to do something that's good and quality, but do the best you can right now and put something out there, then iterate on it, right? That's the main thing, is to constantly iterate. And if you don't do that, you never get anywhere. But anyways, I don't want to harp on you too much for that, because I know it's not your primary focus.
I feel like you should. I mean, it is something necessary. So like, I'm willing to take any kind of advice.
If you want to do it, then just do
exactly.
it.
Yeah, you can harp on me all day. I still gotta do it.
Does your brother have an editor? Like now, I want to interview your brother because that's crazy. His YouTube channel. Does he have an editor, or does he do his own editing?
He goes back and forth between, sometimes he has an editor or multiple editors, or he edits himself. But I think right now he has an editor right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good editor. Get a double A. We'll make you a YouTube channel. we'll just start, me and Double A will just start downloading your stream, and we'll make a fake Dual Kevin channel, and then eventually we're like, hey man, look, you have 10,000 subscribers. Here's the keys. Just hand it to you, because it's crazy that you're not capitalizing on this.
I was gonna do some videos here in a bit too. Shoulda,
coulda, woulda, man.
Yeah. It'll come.
Okay. All right. I'm happy to hear that. And I do want to get to your Street Fighter 6 era, because you've been doing so much work. I mean, in Street Fighter 5, you were on the come up, but you've definitely entered like a new level of consistency with Street Fighter 6. And at first, I don't think it was that apparent, because due to the fact that everything's online, you were mostly just competing in the Midwest, right? And you had a few offline performances which were decent, but there's just not that many tournaments, not that many showings. But you ended up qualifying for Capcom Cup out of the Midwest. And I remember the talk of the time, due to the format with the regional qualifications, which I'm sure we'll get into, no one respects any of the players. I don't know if you've noticed that, because no one is pairing up with major international competition with no names. Everyone who qualifies, people are like, oh, they're whack. It's just like the default assumption from the audience, which I think is terrible. So I think when you qualified, for example, I feel like people often put you in that package of like, oh yeah, who cares, Dual Kevin, whatever, Midwest sucks, right? There was a whole narrative about how bad or like how Midwest is the weakest region. But you qualify for Capcom Cup, and then you end up actually making top 16, right? Like, I feel like you were one of the success stories out of Capcom Cup itself. And the thing is, you were almost in winner side too, like by a round, by a combo drop.
A drop combo,
I think your first match in groups was against Problem X out of the LCQ, who just won the most stacked tournament at that point. Like, one of the most stacked tournaments of the whole season was the LCQ. And then you're about to win 2-0, I believe, with a perfect the previous round, or you're about to get a perfect to close it out. And then it didn't happen. Like, what happened in that moment?
Bro, oh my goodness, so much emotion. Just like, bro, I really could have. I think that combo drop probably set up like in that universe, like Uma may have won, because like I was actually in his path, bro. I was in his path had I made it on winners, and like I felt confident against Jury. So who knows what could have happened in that entire Capcom Cup had I not dropped that combo. It was just jump medium punch into level 1, and I got fireball instead. had I got level 1 instead, like, bro, we could have seen a whole new Capcom Cup champ, whole new Capcom Cup entirely.
Right.
But I mean, who knows? But that what happened is what happened. I did feel bad at the time, but again, I still try to push myself and like believe in what I could do. But I ended up getting placed in 13th. Even though I got top 16, I personally wasn't too proud of my performance. I just felt like the whole Capcom Cup in general, I didn't feel like I played my best. It was really lackluster showing, in my personal opinion. So when I told you how like Mena showed me some ways of studying, I think I mentioned that before already. Yeah, he mentioned some ways of how he studies. It was at Capcom Cup, actually. That Capcom Cup is what. Yeah. So even though like I wasn't proud of my performance, I still took a lot from that Capcom Cup. How I study now is because of Mena taking me to his hotel room, and we were prepping for Problem X, actually, Problem X Blanca, because, you know, they both play Blanca.
Right.
And just the way he just saw the game and practices and how strict he was, I bring up the story a lot. Like, we were practicing, we were, like, talking, and then my phone notification went off. Like, I just had a phone notification, and it was, like, flipped on this side where you could see it. And when he saw it, he was like, "Yo, flip it over, flip it over." I was like, I flipped it over immediately. But in my mind, I was like, "Damn, man!" I was like, "My bad."
He scolded you, yeah. Lock in,
like, oh,
yeah.
I mean, he won championships, so I'll listen to him.
Right.
Like, okay, it should be this serious, and I take it this serious ever since then too. I put my phone aside. I used to go on Discord with my friends when I was studying. I don't do that anymore. I even used to go in and deafen sometimes. I don't even do that anymore. I just like all my focus on studying, and that's it. And it's because of that Capcom Cup and that session with Mena that I had. So yeah, even though it didn't turn out the way I did results wise, I took a lot from it. So
yeah, and I think it shows, because since that Capcom Cup, which was, yeah, like you mentioned, maybe could have been an alternate universe, your group was the weirdest group, because you dropped that combo against Problem X. If you had done that, you potentially would have been at least 4-1 and out in winners. But then you ended up getting in losers, and then Travis Styles had to play Kusanagi, and the winner of that gets out in winners, and the loser of that is eliminated.
Yeah,
right? It was
weird,
you were through losers no matter what. It was very weird.
Yeah,
very weird group.
That was the only weird one. Yeah,
the weirdest one. So even though you were disappointed in that result, the next year, which is this season, you have elevated yourself, I feel like, from a player who does take sets off some of the best in the world to a player that is of the best in the world, right? Because you start the season 2, and the first journey you're on is trying to earn your qualification into the Esports World Cup. And you actually get picked up by Furia at this time, and you start going on like your first real world tour, because you're everywhere. You're in, what was it, DreamHack Dallas, then you're in Sweden, and CEO.
Korea, but that wasn't for EWC. That was for the 3v3 event, but that was around that time too, actually.
Right. So in the middle of that, Korea, and then eventually Saudi Arabia. So
yeah,
how was that world tour like? That you go from competing almost exclusively in North America to suddenly you're on a plane going internationally everywhere, dealing with jet lag. Like, what was that experience like trying to qualify?
I actually didn't talk about it too much when I like first tweeted that I'm in Esports World Cup. And some people would say, like, damn, it's a blessing. You get to travel everywhere and around the world for video games. But, bro, I was so tired, dude. I was so tired. Physically, mentally, like, almost every weekend, almost every weekend, it was like a 16-plus hour trip that I would go, like, I would leave on Thursday, sometimes on Wednesday, and get there the next day due to, like, you know, the time difference and the time to get there. And I wouldn't have a laptop either, so it's not like I would be practicing beforehand. And then get used to jet lag for a day, compete for the weekend, leave on Monday, wouldn't get back home until Tuesday. So then I would have like Tuesday and Wednesday to just be back home, and then I'm out traveling again. And that kept going on for like a month and a half, 2 months, I think. I was just so tired, bro. And I thought to myself, like, I feel like this is making me worse as a player. Like, I didn't have like the best, like, I was close a lot of times to qualifying, but I think I was close and just close, not actually qualifying, because of all the traveling I was doing, actually. Like, like I said, I didn't have a laptop, so I couldn't practice in my hotel room. I didn't have much time to practice at home because, you know, I would get used to jet lag when I get back home, and then I only have one more day, Wednesday, to do whatever, and then I gotta travel again. So it's like the same the same similar results. I got 9th, 13th a lot. Yeah, similar results all throughout that EWC.
But you were taking sets off big name players. This era of EWC, this sudden like surprise tour out of nowhere. It felt like, you know, the 2016 or 2017 to the 2019 Capcom Pro Tour out of nowhere. I mean, you had a set win over Angry Bird. I think you beat like a Valmaster. You took sets over Ada, Fudo. Like, you're beating all kinds of players of top level caliber, players who ended up in the Esports World Cup as well along this time. But, you know, it's still not enough. Like, you get like a 9th place where you need top 8 to qualify. Like, you're getting close, but it's not coming together yet. So was that challenging at the time?
I mean, yeah, like in terms of like I thought I was at a good skill beforehand. Like before Furia, like, you know, I'm not Furia anymore. But what I was doing before in Furia, like it was all when the studying came to be. I was also like switching from like Luke and Rashid to full-time Rashid. So there was a lot of things I was still like learning about my own gameplay and like trying to solidify in my own gameplay throughout that whole time. It's just, again, the traveling like took a hold on some of the things, and I feel like it didn't increase my skills as a player that much. But when I was there, when I was playing, I feel like I was doing pretty well for myself. But then like the LCQ came around, and not gonna lie, like part of me is like, yo, I really hope I make it in. This is the last chance. I got to do it here. But at the same time, I was like, bro, I'm just glad for this to all be over. Again,
really?
I was so tired, bro. Again, like to even get to Saudi Arabia, it was like at least 24 hours to get there, and then 24 hours more to get back. So when I dropped into loser, I was like, you know what, this might be it. I mean, so be it. So and then I was like, I'll just do whatever. So then I played Shudo. I beat him. I was like, it's still kind of whatever. Whatever happens, happens. And then I beat Momochi and was like, I actually could make this happen, huh? And then I beat Kobayan and I popped off. Nobody was there to see it because there was no stream and there was no audience that could watch, but I popped off like crazy when I beat Kobayan. And it was like, hold up. It's like, I actually could make this. I could do this shit. I could make it. So then, top 8 happened the next day. Play Tiger, beat Tiger. I was confident in that. And then I was confident against Daigo. And bro, I was like, I beat Daigo already. I hope there's this smooth sailing like it was at CEO. No disrespect to Daigo, but I still made the thing happen at CEO, right? And then he brought it back 2 straight. It's like, bro, why Daigo? Why you gotta make this stressful, bro? But I luckily for me, I won the game 5. The emotion reaction you saw on stream, like, you know, me throwing the headset, fucking hands to my face, all relief. It wasn't like excited I made it in. I was excited, but that didn't hit me yet. I wasn't excited I made it in. I wasn't excited to beat Daigo. It was all relief about all this traveling, me having to, you know, do well for Furia and for myself. So like that's where it all came to be. That's where the first emotion that I felt, because all that traveling is done. Now I'm in. I finally came into fruition that all this traveling, it was all worth it in the end. And that's when I felt like I worked hard for it. I put the hours into it.
I mean, and that was a crazy loser's run. After going all over the world and falling short, I'm so upset that they didn't have the LCQ stream. Yeah, because I mean, you're kind of like you're almost downplaying it. Shudo, first of all, who just ended up winning CPT Singapore, right? So like, he hadn't won yet, but just to give you the caliber of player that you beat 2-0, Momochi 2-0, and Kobayan. Kobayan had just won Topanga League in Japan, like almost free, the best Zangief in Japan at the time, beat all the top Japanese players, and you beat them, and all this is happening off stream, and not even off stream. I think they were preventing people from even like filming locally, so there's no recorded evidence of this run whatsoever. We're just seeing the bracket update. I'm like, oh shit, like Dual Kevin is doing the thing, like it's actually happening, and which is nuts. So we got to see the final qualification. But
there was no live audience for that. Like I said, so there's a stage for the LCQ, like a lot of setups that you couldn't, even if you were a competitor or you even played in LCQ, if you don't have a match ready, you can't go up there and see. So like when I came down, it's funny. When I came back down from winning that, I was like, I don't know if you ever seen me pop off. I like kind of angry when I pop off. So like I was just pacing back and forth after I got off the stage, and all the players were looking at me, and I think they didn't want to make eye contact because they thought I had lost with the kind of reaction I had. But then I remember I looked at JB and I was like, I hit my chest, and he was like, "Yo, you won?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they all popped up for me.
Okay, they're trying to give you some space.
And, and they and at the same time, they all were thanking me too because they didn't want Kobayan, Zangief in the EWC.
Okay, so all the international players, or all the qualified players too.
All the already qualified players, yeah, they're all thanking me.
That's right. Kobayan at this time, since he had just won Topanga League, was like this he was big monster, right? Like people, he came out of nowhere. He started winning. Everyone's scared of him. Zangief is at his peak right now.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you eliminated a monster.
Yeah, they all popped off after, and they all thanked me after. It was a fun moment. If only that was on stream, but yeah, that's what that moment was.
Well, I'm glad you got to have that moment. It would have been great if we could actually see what happened. Yeah, it was so frustrating to not know what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing that all of it came to a head there. And then Daigo, like you mentioned, you beat him pretty free at CEO, and you're up 2-0, and he brings it all the way back. And I was like, oh no, not at the very end. The beast gatekeeping.
Bro, it's like
Kevin.
I was willing, like. Obviously, I don't want to lose, but I was more willing to lose from Shudo. But after being up 2-0 against Daigo, and then he brings it back all the way, like there's no way it's gonna end like this, bro. There's no way. And apparently, he was like smiling during the set. I was not smiling at all. No. Like he was probably appreciating the match. Yeah, he was probably appreciating the match, which I appreciate that he feels that way. Yeah, like he was still smiling even after he went for a handshake or fist bump or whatever it was. So like two different emotions on two different sides of the setup. But it was a great match. It was a great showing overall for the people. So at least there was that too.
It was a good show. We were obviously biased over here. I was very happy to see you make it in after that whole world tour you went on, especially after like not doing that, to suddenly being thrust into a plane all across the world for a couple months, which is absurd. But then you actually have a really good showing as well at the actual Esports World Cup. You know, you're the person who eliminated MenaRD in the end there, and then you also took out Zhen to make it into the top 16. So were you happy about how the actual Esports World Cup went? Because you ended up getting eliminated in the next phase after that.
Yeah. So I always felt like even during those 355 days, actually, when me and Mena were play casuals, like I felt like it was pretty back and forth. So like I feel like I had a good understanding of how Mena's play style, and that's why I felt confident going into my match versus Mena at EWC. So I had a set game plan once again. And obviously, it wasn't an easy pool. I mean, no pool or group was easy at EWC, as it should be that way. But I had a very strong game plan against them. Shanghai, I lost this I got beat pretty bad, and just I don't know. I've just been struggling against Shanghai these past few interactions that we encountered each other. But yeah, Mena, I had a good game plan, and then Zen, I beat him before, and I felt very confident against him too. So. My first group, I felt very good about it, and I'm glad I turned out the way it did. Then the next day for me was the second phase. I played Gachikun and Kakuru. Gachikun, dang, it was kind of a heartbreaker. I felt like I was on the verge of making a comeback, and then I stunned him, and he had very little life that I tried to go for the optimal meter build with throwing him for the kill, but it left him at a pixel. And he brought it back in that round and just beat me 3-1.
Right.
But I felt like the comeback was in the making there. But that's just how it ended up being. Kakuru, he just perfect parried all my cyclones. I mean, as he's known to be the perfect parry god.
Right.
Perfect parried all my cyclones. My mixers weren't working for me in terms of anti-airing. And I just couldn't get anything started, so he just beat the shit out of me too. That's just how it came to be. But yeah, overall, a great showing, I felt. Throughout the whole EWC, LCQ, and the main event.
Yeah, I feel like that was like really your ascension, because I mean, you showed promise in the first season, but there wasn't that many opportunities. And then you get into Capcom Cup, and you know you were disappointing in the result, but I feel like you did. You had a really good showing overall, and then suddenly it's like, oh crap! Like you're suddenly taking consistently sets off these top international players, not just one here or there per tournament, but like you went on a run. Eliminating some of the best players on the planet in a row to get to that top 16 finish there at Esports World Cup. And then from there on, it seems like you just maintain that level of consistency, because then next CPT Premier, Cream City Convergence, you end up getting second. Mena brings it back, this time with the Zangief against you. Then third place at ECT, and then second now at Blink Respawn. So now you've established yourself as like the example of consistency and a format which doesn't in the offline premier circuit doesn't favor consistency. So do you feel like you've unlocked a new level? Like how do you feel about your gameplay right now?
Yeah, I always felt like as long as I applied myself to anything, I will achieve it. And it all just took the opportunities of me, like figuring out how I improve within myself. And that was with the studying and all that. But also the opportunities of playing against these players. So, like you said, with the World Warriors in the past, you don't get those kind of opportunities until like Capcom Cup. And even then, maybe not so much. So as those opportunities kept presenting itself, I feel like I was able to do well for myself, and it ended up being that way. Again, it just sucks that the way the format is, I'm not in Capcom Cup right now.
Right.
Which, by the way, like when I did make that tweet, like it wasn't me. Did I already discuss this? Like
you brought it up, but we can get into it now. Like we didn't go into the format itself. So like you end up after this whole time, like you got second at Cream City, third at ECT, second Blink Respawn. These are all premier events. And a traditional point system, you probably would have been qualified at this point based on your consistent performances. If you get top 3, top 2 at multiple premieres, right, you're usually in a good position to qualify.
Yeah.
But with this format, because they're auto qualifiers, you're no closer to qualifying than if you had just stayed home. And so you end up getting second again at a premiere, getting close to qualifying again. And then I'll read the tweet for the crowd here. I really hate to come off as salt posting, but consistency really doesn't mean anything this year. Top 3 placings all around, and I didn't get much closer to qualifying for Capcom Cup. I should have just stayed home this entire time, considering it wouldn't have made a difference anyways.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So like, bro. So here's the thing. Like the way people react to that. First, I didn't know it was gonna blow up that way, but I guess it did. But like the way people react to that. So many people are missing the point, bro. Like people are saying, like, "Oh, you're gonna qualify for Capcom Cup anyways." Like, bro, that format is still bad. Like, I'm being consistent. It doesn't matter if I'm gonna qualify or not. It's the principle of how the format is.
Right.
Yeah, or like people take it as me being discouraged, which I can see why with my wording it is. But I really wasn't discouraged. Like, I know I have a really good shot making Capcom Cup. Hopefully, it's not the case where I fail still. But yeah, I wasn't that discouraged. It's more of like this is how the reality is. This is how the format is. I really should. It's not like, damn, bro, woe is me. I should have stayed home. It's not. It's more like, motherfucker, I should have stayed home. Save myself some money. Like, it's more of that instead. Like, I really should have just stayed home the entire time and not pour hundreds of dollars of going into Blink or what's it called C3 or not C3. C3 actually Furia helped me. That was my last event as Furia. But ECT, I shouldn't have spent money to go to that because why did it matter for me? The experience of what people are telling me is like, bro, to me, I already know what I'm capable of. I guess like to the Western world, I proved it myself, but I already knew what I was capable of. Like, I beat some players like I beat Dio again in ACT or like Big Bird, but like I know my own skill as a player that I was capable of doing that. So I could have stayed home. To my mind, I should have stayed home.
Right. Yeah, you did. I mean, your consistent placements have, I guess, I don't want to say it's done nothing for you because it definitely has. Like you built your brand and your presence in the minds of the audiences. So like now when you make your runs, people will respect that you're of that caliber, not just say, oh, you're lucky random Rashid's busted. You know what I mean? Like that's the unfortunate truth of the matter is that the FTC and the way audiences react to your success is often a combination of where have you been in the past? Like, what is your consistency? What is your legacy? And what have you done for me lately? Right. So it's both. You have to have recent results and a backlog of consistent results that are public and viewable for people to actually acknowledge and respect what you're doing. So you have earned, I think, the respect of a lot more audiences. So that is something that could be spun positively for your career as a fighting game professional. But what you're saying is objectively true. You are not closer to qualifying than if you had just stayed home because you are very close to potentially qualifying for Capcom Cup. There's one last World Warrior event for the Midwest region, and there's a 30-point difference between you and Just a Kid. So I crunched the numbers. Mathematically, if you get third place, it's over. There's nothing that Just a Kid can do to qualify. Even if he wins the tournament, if you get third place, he can't surpass you, right? So that is like the cutoff.
I believe if I get fifth place, then there's nothing you can do. I believe if I did the math, maybe I did the math right. That's why I've been telling people this entire time.
I would recommend doing your best.
Yeah.
Don't get fifth place and drop out, then he wins and jumps you. We can double check those numbers. But there's a theoretical like placing where you will, without even winning, it gatekeeps Just a Kid even if he beats you and wins the tournament, right?
Yeah.
And then you will have the number one points for the Super Premier region of the U.S. Midwest, and you'll automatically qualify without even having to go to regional finals. And even if you did go to regional finals, you would still be the favorite to win there. But that's still, that's a lot scarier, right? One tournament, who knows what could happen. But what you're saying is objectively true, right? You are incentivized to stay home. Aside from the points I made about building your brand, monetary wise, like you are sponsored for two of these events, but the third, Blink Respawn, you're paying out of pocket. A second place finish at some of these premieres is often still in the negative. Like you're often losing money for travel or barely breaking even. So the format itself is still incentivizing you to stay home, and we're seeing that because attendance is dropping and dropping and dropping. Like all the relevant top players aren't going, and then if you do qualify, why would you go to any tournaments, right? So Blink Respawn was unique that it had two qualifiers in there, MenaRD and Blaz, who already qualified. But MenaRD, that's his event, that's his region. He's entering to support his own scene. And then Blaz, I think, is mostly because that's like the one event that the Chilean players could actually get to.
Right.
So they're all doing a group showing there, which is awesome to see. But everyone else who qualifies just stays home because what is the point in going? So I think your point still stands regardless of maybe the questionable timing of the tweet, which, people will try to latch onto that and be like, oh, he's just salty, whatever.
For the most part, it was a positive reception. Yeah, people agree with me. I mean, there was an occasion, you fucking play Rashid, you should have won the whole thing type bullshit, But for the most part, people agreed. I mean, they knew about that before, and even before it happened to me. It just sucks. Like I had to be the one to face the consequences, kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. I really hope they make some kind of modification in the future. I know there's a lot of debates about it, and I'm public enemy number one to a lot of players from certain regions because they talk about how I want to remove opportunities from regions who don't have don't get those opportunities. Like there's a lot of discussion about that, but there has to be a balance where players are at least still incentivized to go to the tournaments. We need offline. Like if people aren't, because no one watches the World Warriors. Or I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they don't draw new people in at all. It's a sub % of the actual hardcore audience watches the World Warriors. The offline events, they get new people into it. They see the action, they see the hype, they see the crowd, they see the faces. There's a humanity to it where new people will actually tune in and be like, oh, what is this? Let me check this out and get invested, right? So we need that to support the scene. And if you keep having a format which is saying, hey, it's so risky to even go to these tournaments, you're better off if you're a strong player staying home and just practicing World Warrior and doing that, then there's something wrong with the format. And you're the prime example because you have been the most consistent player going to the most events, and you're still not in the cup. And your takeaway is, I should have just stayed home.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also like, when people hear those kind of like arguments of like how it could be, how it was in the past, and how it should be, I mean, they were even like kind of hinting that points are like, I guess points are going to come back. I guess what they hinted in the stream.
I'm not
like
sure.
Maybe.
They called me out. I was restreaming it, and then I hear like Jeremy Vicious is like, "Oh, you've heard what Brian F says," and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
But then what they announced was auto qualifiers for the winner of Capcom Cup and the winner of Street Fighter League, which is the opposite of a point system. So I don't know. Yeah. They're hinting at more changes, so maybe something will come.
Yeah. So I was kind of I personally think they will come back maybe in some way. I just hope because we didn't have like the perfect point system either when they were a thing. So but I hope someone doesn't get screwed over as bad as I did in some way. Like I guess I'm kind of trying to ask for a perfect system, even though it's hard to do so. But just not a system that's just still so flawed that someone is going to get screwed over bad. I would hope that doesn't happen. And regarding the arguments of we could have the point system and the World Warrior system like they were planning for 2020 for a long time already. They can coexist.
I don't understand why there's such a weird pushback, because every time I say that I want a combination of an offline point system and the World Warrior, I still get people who say no. And I'm like, at that point, you already have a World Warrior spot. If you're from this region with a World Warrior spot and you just don't want the point system to exist, you're not asking for more, you're asking for less for others. I'm like, what is the point here? And if you keep doing World Warrior systems only, and then the audience doesn't care anymore, even if we're giving opportunities to players around the world, you're giving them opportunities for something that's not going to exist soon. I have a serious concern that this is all going to crumble and die. Like, I'm legitimately concerned about the future of the CPT with the direction it's going. If they don't make some kind of changes, because I think the audience is starting to lose interest. And it's not the game's fault. I mean, maybe you can make an argument that people aren't as interested in the game, but I think it's just the format. I think the format is not doing the players justice. So hopefully something changes.
No, I completely agree.
Do you have a format in mind that you would prefer, or just a combination of the World Warrior and offline points?
I mean, just a combination of both. You could still get some of the unknown players that aren't able to travel, whether it be like visa issues or whatever it may be. You could still get them. But also, like, bro, we definitely need some more offline events. And just reward us, bro. I remember there was one thing too regarding the 2020 season of there was gonna be like 2 phases or something. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like if you qualify within the first half, points reset. So then you could do that a second half, which I think that's a brilliant idea too, actually. And if they do bring it back, I hope that comes along with it. Where I think they didn't reveal too much, but yes, you could like travel, and then you get some points. Then like 8 players or something will qualify with the first half. After that first half, points reset, and then 8 players qualify for the second half.
Yep.
So so even then, like, if you are willing to travel, like, you don't have to travel to every single event. Like, maybe you're having a rough first half, and you realize that on the second month, you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll just pause it here, focus on World War, whatever it may be, and then go again in the second half when that starts back up. So, like, that's just so many good ideas that they could do, and they have presented that they probably could go back to within this next year.
That was the slideshow they showed after IDOM won Capcom Cup, and it was brilliant. It included the World Warrior. That's when they first announced World Warrior. So they had this hybrid idea, and that split leaderboard makes so much sense because, like you mentioned, either you can strategize and abandon ship if you're failing in the first half and save money and then travel in the second half, or if you don't have the funds to go to too many tournaments, just do really well in one, and then you won't get knocked out of the leaderboard because you stop traveling for the second half of the year, right? So it helps cut down on costs for players wanting to travel and still gets the opportunity. So the ideas have been there. So it is frustrating that we're like solely online right now and then doing auto qualifiers, which I think is a less hype format for spectators, and no one wants to travel for it. So we'll see what direction it goes. But either way, I think I do believe that you're going to end up in Capcom Cup this year, and I think you'll be doing some work. So do you have any closing thoughts or things you want to share with the audience before you get back to studying up for the next World Warrior?
Nah, I mean, I don't know. I just appreciate you doing this, actually. It's entirely just getting the history, getting the players' voices out there. You know what's crazy? A lot of people be like, whenever I be talking, whatever it may be, people be like, damn, Dual Kevin got a voice? It's like, wait, what? Like, y'all never, I think it's mostly because, like, I don't be tweeting much. I feel like that's mostly what it is, even though I don't have my voice out there too. But, like, I feel like because I don't put myself out there a lot when it comes to social media realm, people don't know I have a voice. But I be talking, bro. And I'm definitely willing to talk a lot, as y'all can see. But I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to put my voice out there, let people know what's up. I don't know. I appreciate these kind of fighting game talks. I can go on and on and on, especially when it comes to like the competitive side of things and how I go about things, whether it be the theory fighting, the mental aspect of it all. I can go on a lot. So I appreciate you giving me the chance though, Brian. For real.
No problem. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, no problem at all.